at the Star Wars convention. It's going to be great. I'm here again as usual covering conventions and such. Bam Sam from the podcast is with me this time.
How's it going, guys?
So we can go in, see who's in there, going to talk to the Iconic Legion and just get some more photos and any interviews we can like usual. Let's do this.
Stormtroopers. What's going on today, guys?
So we've got a convention today, as you can see behind us at the community centre. There's lots and lots of Star Wars memorabilia inside, and there's also lots of things going on inside as well. But yeah, we're part of Iconic Legion. We work for a charity group, and basically we do a lot of charity work in and around the whole of down south and up north as well. But today we're up here in the baking hot. They've got two Stormies that I don't know how the heck they're surviving, and me fully Jedi'd up today. Plenty of weight loss today. If anyone asks, perhaps you come here for fat fighters to actually lose some weight today.
Alright. You haven't been ambushed by any Star Troopers yet?
No, they've not come out shouting Klingons at us and chasing us yet.
Yes.
Stay away from them. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Guys, so do you want to go around and introduce yourselves and tell us a little about what's going on today?
That's cooking it. Basically I just come here just to have a little trial, see what it's like in here.
Yeah, well, Michael from East London, I heard there was a charity do going on, so I thought I'd come along, show some support.
George, pretty much the same reason as Michael, just went to come, show some support for about the Iconic Legion. Raise some money for Stroke Foundation.
Yeah, George, I mean, it's always fun to come down, you know, raise a bit of money for a charity, help out, you know, sort of have fun.
Favourite Star Wars? Will be between 4 and 3. Just because I love like the portrayal of like the story to 3, and 4 is just beyond the originality to it, which is awesome.
I was going to say that from Joe, it's Phantom Menace, best one now, Joe. Empire Strikes Back.
I can't really put my finger on one particular one, but I do kind of like the end of episode 3 because the Anakin switching to the dark side bit. Because I'm kind of a neutral guy, I go to these sort of events as two different Sith and Jedi, so it kind of represents me as myself.
Well, number 5 for me, I mean, always preferred number 5 to the others, never known why, but it's just been number 5 for me.
To my very left, or to your right, Mr. Brian Muir, who famously created Darth Vader's helmet and apart from Star Wars, he's also worked on such movies as Alien and Raiders of the Lost Ark. So Brian Muir, ladies and gentlemen. And the next gentleman to my left, Michael Henbury, who of course was an Ewok in episode 6, Return of the Jedi. But he's also been in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. He was a goblin in Labyrinth, acting opposite David Bowie, and of course in Willow. So ladies and gentlemen, Michael Henbury. And of course, last but by no means least, as a child I knew him as a Greek-Cross Code man. You also know him as Darth Vader. Ladies and gentlemen, David Prowse. Okay, so as I said, I've got a few questions before we open it up to the general public. So my first question goes out to Dave and Michael. And the question is, in your opinion, what is the best Star Wars movie and why? So if I pass it over to Dave first.
On 3, see, I was in episodes 4, 5 and 6, which was Star Wars, Empire and Jedi. And then they went, which were good movies, there were 3 good movies. Then they went back and did 1, 2, 3, which were absolute rubbish. And now they're doing 7, 8, 9. I don't know what the situation is as far as 7, 8, 9 are concerned. Of the 3 I did, pardon? Thank you very much. Thank you. Of the 3 I did, I think obviously Star Wars was a sort of huge adventure. People come up to me and they say, "Oh, you know, what's Star Wars done for you?" as it were. And I say, well, to be perfectly honest, it's done everything. It's life-changing. It really has been life-changing. But I enjoyed working on all 3 movies. But I think it's the second one was Star Wars, and I think Empire was probably my favourite.
Well, it has to be Return of the Jedi because of the Ewoks. We all know how wonderful the Ewoks are, and we defeated Darth Vader. So it has to be Return of the Jedi.
On the first Star Wars, I was actually contacted to go on to the film. I went onto the film at the beginning of January 1976 and started off by actually sculpting the Stormtrooper armour. I was only promised 6 weeks at the time. I was very young, I was only 23, although I'd started in the film industry at 16, straight from school. I think in a way, they were testing me out to see what I could do. They were happy with what I did on the Stormtrooper, and the next character was Darth Vader. I actually sculpted Darth Vader on a plaster model of Dave. The plasterers moulded Dave and presented him in plaster. So when I sculpted Darth Vader on the plaster model of Dave, we knew that it would then fit back onto him.
It was quite interesting actually, because I got a phone call from my agent, and my agent says that, can you go up to the 20th Century Fox offices in London, because there's a gentleman called George Lucas who wants to see you. So I had no idea what it was all about. I went up to the 20th Century Fox offices, and I met up with Peter Beale, who was the managing director of 20th Century Fox in the UK, and he then took me into a room and introduced me to this young, what I call student-looking guy, who was George Lucas, you see. And then George Lucas took me into another room and showed me all these drawings on the wall, the whole wall. I suppose the room was about half, quarter of the size of this, but the walls were covered with drawings. And George said, these are all conceptual drawings of this movie that I'm going to do. It's called Star Wars, you see. And he said, I'd like to offer you a part in the movie. So I said, well, that's very kind of you. I said, well, you know, what's the part? He said, well, you've got a choice. You can either play a character called Chewbacca, okay? Or alternatively, you can play the big villain in the film, the character called Darth Vader, see? So I thought to myself, well, do I want to play Chewbacca, which is like a hairy gorilla? And I didn't give that one any more thought. And of course, the Queen Navy came and eventually took it over. And I opted to play Darth Vader. It was as simple as that. I didn't have to read, I didn't have to do anything. And then I turned around to him and I said, well, excuse me asking you. I said, how did you know of me? Because I've never worked with you, and I've never met you. And he said, oh, he said I saw you in Stanley Kubrick's Clockwork Orange. He said, if you're good enough for Stanley Kubrick, you're good enough for me. And that was it. That's all I had, yeah. Well, my business before I ever went into the acting world is I was, as you probably know, I was a bodybuilder and a weightlifter. And going back a little while, I did the Mr. Universe contest, and then I changed over after doing the competition. I changed over to competitive weightlifting, and within 2 years, I think it was, I think I got third place in the first year I entered, and then the second year, subsequently after that, I was the British heavyweight weightlifting champion, and so from that I got involved in looking after gymnasiums to start with, and then I got very interested in running gymnasiums, and eventually I finished up with three gymnasiums of my own in London. one at Grosvenor House in Park Lane, and another one, I had an exercise consultancy in Harrods, and I had another gymnasium up at Prince Road. So I had three gymnasiums at one stage, which was lovely. Thoroughly enjoyed it. My fondest moment actually had nothing whatsoever to do with the film. The greatest moment almost in my career was when my first residual cheque arrived for the royalties on Empire Strikes Back. So it was, I couldn't believe it. Went to the bank.
Okay, is there anybody out there who would like to ask a question? Gentleman down here.
I'm not going to do what's a movie. Do it.
Come and pass the microphone to you.
I was just wondering, do you think the Ewoks will make another appearance in episode 7, 8, 9?
Your guess is as good as mine, actually. I really don't know. It's very top secret. It would be nice.
The villain of the piece was Darth Vader, who was in black. They decided to have the stormtroopers in white. The original concept art was done by Ralph McQuarrie, so it was a simple copy of his concept. Things like the back were made up because there was no concept art at the back. Vader was done from a simple, the mask and helmet that is, was done from a simple drawing that I got from John Mollo from the wardrobe department. The armour was actually based on Ralph McQuarrie's concept work, but the helmet was just a simple drawing inside a larger input on the way Vader looked. Well, I was lucky. I was the only apprentice sculptor ever in the film industry. I started at Elstree Studios at the age of 16, and I did my 4-year apprenticeship there. The most iconic piece I've done, and that's why the book is called In the Shadow of Vader, because although I've been in the film industry and outside for 46 years, everything is in the shadow of Vader because it's become so famous and iconic. In Raiders, I did all 3 Indiana Jones, but the one that I probably did most work on was Temple of Doom, which I did the heart that they pluck out, the sacrifice where you get the double heartbeat. And I actually had to go in, they arranged for me to see a heart surgeon at Harefield Hospital, and I had a chat with him, and I asked him what was the closest to the human heart, and they said the primates. Well, I obviously couldn't get a primate heart, so settled for a lamb's heart in the end, which was fairly close, using a plastic model, medical model, to get the thing right as well, but using the lamb's heart to get the detail right. But things like the 15th python that comes down out the tree, I sculpted that.
And hey, I get to play Dark Emmett Brown. Last week I was driving the DeLorean around, and the sets, mate, it's absolutely stunning. Yeah. They've literally recreated Hill Valley. The 2-on-1 fight is now considered one of the best fights in the whole sort of 6th film.